This is the final speech in this series on the Bhagwat Mahapuran, the greatness and importance of Shreemad Bhagwatam. Yesterday I was telling you how Narad Ji was trying to find a way to revive Gyan and Vairagya, the sons of Bhakti Mahadevi who had become old and tired due to being ignored and scorned by the souls of Kali Yuga. And although reciting the Veda, Upanishads, Brahma Sutra and Gita again and again failed to revive them, yet he was advised by Sanakadik Paramahans that if we organize a recitation of the Bhagavatam, that will definitely revive them. And then you got to hear some explanation of why the Bhagavatam is beyond these other scriptures. Why, even though reciting these other scriptures didn't revive Jnana and Vairagya, reciting the Bhagavatam did. So I explained that one of the things is that the goal of the Bhagavatam is beyond liberation. Right in the very beginning of the Bhagavatam, the goal of liberation is denounced as a deception. Because if you get mukti, then you'll remain bereft of Premanand, the divine love of Shri Krishna, which is the topmost thing. The Bhagavatam says, Nanaka prishtham na cha sarvabhaumam na parameshtyam na mahendradhishnyam na yoga siddhira punarbhavam va vanchanti yat padaraja prapanna. That someone who's tasted a little bit of that Premanand of Shri Krishna, which is the real goal of the Bhagavatam, he's not interested in anything else. You can offer him the topmost abode of Swarg, Nanaka Prishtham. He's not interested in the seat of Brahma. He's not interested in the seat of Indra. Offer to make him the emperor of the entire earth planet. He's not interested. He'll turn it down. Offer to give him all of the yogic siddhis, all of the greatest powers of yoga. He'll turn it down. Offer him liberation. He says, I'm not interested. Shri Krishna himself says in the Bhagavatam, Sarshti samipya salokya sarupyaikatvam apyuta diyamanam na grihnanti vinamat sevanam jana. He says there are actually 5 kinds of liberation. One of them is that one where you merge into formless God. It's called Ekatva Mukti, Advaita Mukti, Kaivalya Moksha. Has many names. There are 4 other muktis as well, related to the personal form of God. Shri Krishna says, even if I'm giving Diyamanam, I'm giving any of those liberations to my devotee, Nagrihananti, he won't accept it. He doesn't want it, because all he wants is to receive my Premanand and to serve me personally in my abode. So this is the highest goal. And this is what is taught by the Bhagavatam. At the end of this recitation by Sanakadik Paramahans, which was organized by Narad Ji, Shukdev Ji himself came and joined the crowd. This was after the recitation had just finished and Bhakti, Jnana and Vairagya had all regained their youthful strength and beauty. Shukdev Ji came and entered the gathering, and he was seated on the highest seat. And he also started to speak and say something about the Bhagavatam. So he said, Swarge satye cha kailase vaikunthe nastyayam rasa. He says, the ras that you can get from loving Krishna the way it's taught in the Bhagavatam. I explained yesterday that those leelas that were done by Krishna and which are recorded in the Bhagavatam, they reveal the different relationships that a soul can have with him. And through those relationships, you receive that premanand, or that divine love. So that ras, as it's referred to by Shukdev Ji, is not found, he says, na swarge, it's not found in the celestial abodes, swar. Na satye, not even the highest celestial abode, the abode of Brahma. That ras is not found there. Na kailase, not even in the abode of God Shiva. Na vaikunthe, nor in the abode of God Vishnu. Shukdev Ji is saying that that ras, which is received through the grace of Radha Krishna, by getting to see their leelas or take part in their leelas, it's beyond compare, is not found in any other abode of any other form of God. Even God Shiva left his Kailash abode to come down where on the earth planet where Krishna was doing Maharas with Radharani and all the gopis. He abandoned Kailash abode and came and took the form of a gopi to take part in Maharas. Because the ras of the Ras Leela exceeds the bliss of Kailash abode. Even Mahalakshmi, she abandoned Vaikuntha abode and came running just to get the chance to observe Maharas happening, let alone take part in it. So this is what the Bhagavatam is teaching us. After Shukdev Ji had extolled the greatness of the Bhagavatam, then some more great divine personalities showed up there in that gathering on the bank of Gangaji at Anand Ghat in Haridwar. Shri Krishna himself came, and along with him he brought some great famous devotees. Prahlad came, Arjun came, Bali came, Uddhav was also with them. And they started a big kirtan. Of course, they asked Krishna to sit on the highest seat of all, and everyone did his puja. And after that, they started doing kirtan. So Indra also came. Indra was playing mridang. Arjun was singing the kirtan. Uddhav was playing jhanj. Sanakadik, Parmahans, they were doing Jai Ghosh, saying Jaikars again and again. Shukdev Ji did dancing, like classical nritya. So in this way, everybody took part and they had a big, beautiful kirtan. Bhakti, Jnana and Vairagya also danced out of sheer joy. So seeing this kirtan, Shri Krishna said, I'm very pleased with all of you. So ask for a boon. I'll grant anything you want. So everybody there asked, Shri Krishna, we desire this boon, that wherever there's a recitation of the Bhagavatam, we want you to come with your Parshad, all of your divine associates, just like you did here, and come and join that satsang. So Shri Krishna said, yes, so be it. But of course, the recitation of the Bhagavatam has to be of that level, from the heart. Total faith in the Leelas and the name and the gunas of Shri Krishna that are in that Bhagavad. You see, the Bhagavatam also teaches Raga Nuga Bhakti. I was talking about the differences yesterday between the Gita and the Bhagavatam. The Gita is related to an almighty form of Krishna. Krishna has many forms. God has many forms. In the Bhagavatam, Vedavyasji says, Vadanti Krishna Shreyansi Bahuni Brahmavadina. Uddhav ji is asking about the path to God and why are there so many different paths. And you heard this in the very beginning that Shri Krishna answered, people interpret the Vedas in different ways, but in fact the main path, the only true path that unites a soul with God is Bhakti. So when a soul does Bhakti, what form of God are they going to attain? It depends. Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavan iti Shabdyate. Vedavyasji gives a beautiful reconciliation of the philosophy of the different forms of God. He says there's one Advaya Jnana Tattva. It means one supreme power who envelops and contains and includes everything. The souls, the material power, Maya, and all forms of God. So that one single supreme power appears eternally in three forms. Brahm, Paramatma, Bhagavan. Brahm is formless God, in whom all the divine powers are there, but almost none are manifested. Very little of the divine power is manifested. That's why Brahm has no form, no gunas, no virtues, no discernible or describable characteristics of any kind. But that same Brahm, if more of the power is manifested, he appears as Paramatma. This is the almighty form of God. Like Vishnu, Shiva, Durga, etc. They're all in this almighty category. And Bhagavan, that's like the full bloom form of all the divine powers. When all the divine powers are manifested, then Bhagavan is in the form of Shri Ram and Shri Krishna, where they reveal all of those loving and, in Krishna's case, playful leelas. There's like a gradation, you can say, from Nirakar Brahm, where there's no powers manifested, to Paramatma, Almighty God, where there's some powers manifested, but none of the lovingness is manifested. Just the divine bliss and greatness of God is there, but no premana, no ras of premana, no madhurya. The madhurya is fully revealed in the form of Radha Krishna. And in between that purely almighty form, where there's pure Aishwarya and no Madhurya, and that absolute form, where there's pure Madhurya and the almightiness, the Aishwarya, is merged into that Madhurya. Between that, there are a few forms. So you have Radha Krishna as pure Madhurya, you have Mahavishnu and other almighty forms as pure Aishwarya. And in between you have Ram, who is revealing some Madhurya, but still quite a bit of Aishwarya. You have, if you increase the Madhurya more, you have Shri Krishna of Dwarika, who is a combination of Madhurya and Aishwarya, but more Madhurya than is found in Ram. In Mathuradhish Shri Krishna, the Madhurya is further increased, so the Aishwarya is further concealed. And in Golok and Vrindavan, Wale Shri Krishna, it's pure Madhurya. So the Gita it's affiliated to, or it teaches bhakti to, Shri Krishna of that, you could say, mixed opulence form, where it's not pure Madhurya, it's not pure almightiness, it's like a mix, like Shri Krishna was when he was in Dwarika. This type of devotion is called Vaidhi Bhakti. When you worship God as God, He's God, I'm a soul, I have to follow all the rules according to Vedas, how they say to do upasana, what time of the day, take a proper bath beforehand, what to offer, what mantras to say, how to sit, which direction to face. All of that is regulated by the Vedas. So one who follows all of these vidhi of the Vedas, when they do devotion, they're following Vaidhi Bhakti. It's a very formal way of doing worship. This is the type of bhakti which is indicated by the Gita. But the Bhagavatam teaches Raga Nuga Bhakti. Raga Nuga Bhakti means just according to the loving feelings of your heart. Gita indicates also that you have to love God. Shri Krishna says, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam. That you have to worship Him lovingly, priti purvakam. With love, if you worship Him, then you can attain Him. But how to love Him, how to love Krishna of the Gita, who is so almighty, so formal, is more difficult. So that's why the Bhagavatam reveals those other leelas where Krishna is less formal, more playful, where Mother Yashoda can scold him, tie him up to the ukal. His friends can jump on his back and ride him like a horse. His friends can tease him. The gopis can play with him. These leelas reveal Krishna's utmost lovingness and playfulness. So the Bhagavatam actually teaches Raga Nuga Bhakti, where you love Shri Krishna the way the gopis, Gwalbals, and Mother Yashoda loved him. This is called Raga Nuga Bhakti. In Raga Nuga Bhakti, these vidhi and nished of how to worship, when to worship, none of that applies. In Braj, they didn't even say Shri Krishna's name properly. No one called him Krishna, and certainly not Shri Krishna, and never Bhagwan Shri Krishna. In Braj, he was not Bhagwan. I told you that the more the Madhurya is revealed, the more the Aishwarya is concealed. In other words, Bhagwan's Bhagavata is removed. Then those loving leelas can be manifested. So, this is Raganuga Bhakti, where you just love God. Because, like I said, in Braj, they didn't refer to him as Bhagwan, they didn't think of him as God, and this allowed those leelas to be revealed and enjoyed both by those saints and by Shri Krishna. They loved him so much, so completely, with total abandon, you could say, just completely forgetting that he's God, that they never even called him Krishna. They called him Kanua, Kanhaiya. It's like you can say a nickname. Like if you take Krishna's name and turn it into something else, you get Kanua. So this was because they had no formality. Just like you make pet names for your kids. You shorten it, add some oo on the end. Everybody has pet names. So in the same way, they loved Krishna like that, with no kind of formality or restriction, just the way you would love someone in your own family, or your best friend, or your beloved. So this is the bhakti of the Bhagavatam, Raganuga Bhakti, leaving aside all the rules and regulations of devotion, just loving Krishna the way you would want to love him. That's it. So this is a style of devotion which you can use to purify your heart. So in this way, we understand that the Bhagavatam is beyond other scriptures, both in terms of the way it reconciles all the philosophies in such an elegant way, and in the way that it contains the ras of Krishna's premanand revealed in his leelas, which is not revealed in other scriptures. the Bhagwatam has to be listened in a certain way. Bhagwat Katha is very famous. Everybody knows about Bhagwat Katha, attends Bhagwat Katha, but the Bhagwatam and the Bhagwat Mahatmya have some instructions on how to listen to the Bhagwatam. For instance, it's described that there are good listeners and bad listeners. Shrota means listener. So pravar shrota means a good listener and avar shrota means a bad listener. First, the good listeners. Bhagwat Mahatmya says there are 4 kinds of pravar shrota. The first one is the chatak. Chatak is an example of ananyata. The chatak bird of India will only drink one type of water. The water that rains from the sky only during a certain 2-week period when the Swati constellation is in the ascendant. Otherwise, you won't drink any kind of water, not even Ganga Jal. That's ananyata, total exclusive devotion. He says, my priyatam, my beloved, is Swati. So only when Swati is in the ascendant will I drink that rainwater that falls. So a Pravarshota in this tradition of Swati is someone who only wants to hear, who only listens to Krishna's name, his leelas, thinks about his form, listens to his gunas, and nothing about the world. He only listens to anything concerning Shri Krishna. This is one type of Pravarshota. Now, if you yourself can't live in an ashram and stay totally isolated from the world, you might not be able to come in this category. So the next category is called Hans. The second type of Pravarshota is a Hans. The Hans discriminates between what is of value and what isn't. If you mix water into milk, then someone would say, oh, you've spoiled the milk. Now it's not pure anymore. But the Hans has the ability to drink the milk and leave the water behind. In other words, you hear all kinds of things in this world. People gossip, people criticize, people talk unnecessarily. Then you also sometimes get to hear about God, about God's leelas. So there are some things of value, there are some things worthy of being discarded. The Hans takes the good thing and leaves the bad thing. So you don't let it go in here. You have to hear everything if you're living in the world, but those things that are not of devotional value to you, you don't keep them inside. And those things that are of value, you take them inside and you keep thinking about them over and over again. You do Chintan, you do Smaran of Krishna's Leelas, etc. So this is the Hans Shrota. The third category of good listener is a Shuk. The Shuk listens and repeats exactly how he heard it. In other words, without adding or subtracting or twisting the meaning. A lot of people, I've had my own experience, where I explain a topic. For instance, let's say I'm talking about the fact that God is omnipresent. He's everywhere, he's in everything. He's in every person, he's in every particle of this universe. And then I go on to explain that our goal is to experience God. And we'll only be happy when we experience God. And the world itself, it's just material, so it can never fully satisfy us. So we have to do devotion to God. We have to attach our mind to God, then we'll be able to experience Him. So many times I've been asked after giving a talk on such a subject that Well, you said that God is in everything, so by attaching my mind to the world, I'm attaching my mind to God, right? In other words, twisted it. Took the thing, you heard it, and twisted it so that you can use it the way you want. No, that's not the philosophy. If your mind is attached in the world, yes, God is there, that's fine. But unless you attach your mind to God who is in that thing, like the food you're eating, if you're just eating it for the taste, you're multiplying your material attachments. Oh, but God is in the food. It doesn't matter, your mind is not in God, your mind is in the food. So if you eat the food thinking, God is in here, I'm taking God into myself. Or I offered this food to Krishna, so I'm eating his leftover. Then your mind is in God, not in just the taste of the food. In other words, you have to listen carefully and take it in the context that it was meant and apply it in the way that it was meant to be applied. So the shuk, the parrot, he listens and he repeats it, or can repeat it to others, exactly the way that it was meant. The fourth kind is the meme, a fish. The fish swimming in Kshir Sagar, the ocean of sweet, nectar-like milk of Vishnu's abode. So that meme is unblinking. He's just unblinkingly drinking the nectar of Kshir Sagar all the time. In other words, when you listen to Shri Krishna's Leelas, you listen wholeheartedly with full attention, not being distracted by anything, just like that fish drinking the nectar unblinkingly in Kshir Sagar. So these are the four types of Pravarshota. What is Avarshota? A bad listener. The first type of bad listener, and there are four of them, is called the Vrik. Vrik means wolf. So what does the wolf do? Let's say there are some deer, they're in the forest, and someone's playing on a flute. So those deer are enjoying the sound of that flute, because deer like sweet sounds. So they're just listening and enjoying the sound of the flute, and along comes a wolf and snarls and growls and howls. So in other words, the wolf is not enjoying the sound of the flute, and he's not going to let those deer enjoy it either. So there are such listeners who they sit and they themselves are not listening, and then they find a way to distract others as well. Talking, cell phone ringing, some kind, in other words, becoming a distraction to others. Not only is that person not listening, but he's impeding or preventing others from listening as well. Then we have the Bhurund. The Bhurund is a bird up in Himalaya, which is said to listen to everything and repeat it to others, but not follow anything himself. So we can listen to lots of philosophy too, and understand, oh yes, this is the correct thing. And then we also advise others about it. You're supposed to do this, you're not supposed to do that, but we don't practically follow it ourselves. That's also considered to be a bad kind of listener. The third kind of bad listener is called the Vrish. Vrish means bhangs. You know the buffalo in India, you can give him anything to eat. You can put some nice sweet grapes, so sweet, he'll chomp those down. Okay. You can give him some neem leaves, the most bitter thing, he'll chomp those down too. In other words, it's all the same to him. It just doesn't matter. Whatever you put in front of him, he'll eat. In other words, there are some listeners who don't have the power of discrimination. What is the right thing to listen to? What is the wrong thing to listen to? Oh, it's all good. Someone is speaking nicely, nice flowery language, good oratory. But is what they're saying of any value? Oh, it doesn't matter. Just take it all in, just like the banks. No, we're supposed to be more intelligent than that. We're supposed to be intelligent listeners and try to find something of practical use that we can use to improve our lives, improve our devotion, and come closer to God by listening to that thing. Some speakers may just encourage you more towards the world. And the last kind of listener, the ushtra, the camel. The camel, the bhais will eat anything. Sweet, bitter, it's all the same to him. But the camel actually prefers the bitter thing. He'll avoid the sweet thing and seek out the bitter thing. In other words, I don't want to hear God's name. I don't want to hear God's leelas. All I want to hear is about the world. I want that thing. That is sweet to me. All the worldly talk. I don't want to hear about Krishna's leelas. So there are such listeners like that as well. So Bhagwat Mahapuran tells us this so that we can try to become a better listener. It also tells us that there are 4 types of Bhagavad Katha, or 4 ways of doing this Bhagavad recitation, talking about the Bhagavatam. Sattvic, Rajas, Tamas, and Nirgun. Sattva, Raj, Tam are the 3 qualities of Maya. And Nirgun means to be beyond Maya. So, for instance, if someone is reciting the Bhagavatam, there's some rules laid out in the Bhagwat Mahapuran. Vedavyasji tells these are the rules you have to follow. This is how long you should take to do it. This is how much you should cover each day. These are some other rules of behavior you should follow during that time when the Bhagavatam is being recited. This is how long the breaks should be. Everything is regulated. So if someone follows all of those rules and completes the entire Bhagavatam within 7 days, this is considered a Rajas recitation of the Bhagavatam. Rajas is in between. Sattvic is better, Tamas is worse. Rajas is in between. If someone takes 1 or 2 months to complete the whole Bhagavatam, fully immersing himself in the ras of those leelas, trying to enjoy the ras, and taking a good 1 or 2 months, and following the rules as well, that's considered to be a sattvic recitation of the Bhagavatam. And if someone ignores all of the rules, doesn't recite it with any kind of faith or shraddha, and out of laziness keeps taking big breaks and coming back to it later and takes more than a year to finish it, this is considered to be a tamas recitation of the Bhagavatam. But the best one of all is called Nirgun, beyond Sattva, Raj, Tam. So what is the Nirgun recitation of the Bhagavatam? Ignore all the rules and just keep saying and listening to and singing Krishna's leelas. That's it. Totally drowned in the bliss of those leelas, ignoring all rules and ignoring all time restrictions. That is the Nirgun and the best way of reciting and listening to the Bhagavatam. But you have to really do it wholeheartedly, not just ignore the rules, but you're ignoring the rules in order to immerse yourself in the bliss of those leelas. Someone might say, but when Shukdev ji told Parikshit the Bhagavatam, they did it within 7 days. But that was not because they were doing a Rajas or one of those Rajas, Sattvic, Tamas recitations of Bhagavatam. You would think it would come in this Rajas category, but it doesn't. The only reason he stuck to the 7 days was because Parikshit was going to die in 7 days. That's it. Otherwise, it was a Nirgun recitation of the Bhagavatam. There are also 2 reasons for reciting and listening to the Bhagavatam. Number 1 is because you want to attain Shri Krishna. And number 2 is doing it because you have some kind of worldly desire. So the one, this is what Bhagwat Mahapuran says, the one who desires to attain Shri Krishna, he will be successful if he just drowns himself in those leelas, listens to them faithfully and tries to lovingly remember Krishna. He will be successful. But the one who has the worldly desires, he has to follow all the rules. If he wants it to count as a great good action, which is going to be rewarded with some kind of material prosperity in the future, then he has to follow all the rules for that Bhagavad recitation. Although Bhagwat Mahapuran says he's not really using the Bhagavatam for the best thing. The main use is to attain Krishna. But it's still, he's getting some benefit from it. Even the one who does a tamas recitation of the Bhagavatam gets some benefit. It's better than not doing it at all. This is what Sanakadik Paramahansa say in the Bhagwat Mahapuran. So in this way we understand how the Bhagavatam stands above other scriptures, why it's so special and important, and how we're meant to listen to the Bhagavatam. I told you about the first public recitation of the Bhagavatam by Shukadev Ji to Parikshit after Shukadev Ji had received it from Vedavyas, the knowledge of Bhagavatam, who had received it from Narad Ji, who had received it from Brahma, who had received it from Krishna. So from Krishna to Brahma, Brahma to Narad, Narad to Vedavyas, Vedavyas to Shukadev, but this was all private. The first public recitation was when Shukadev Ji told it to King Parikshit. This was in the year 3072 BC. A little bit after Krishna had disappeared, 3072 BCE. After that, I told you about another recitation which happened 150 years after that. That was by Sanakadik Paramahansa, organized by Narad Ji. But when Sanakadik Paramahansa, when they were about to tell this Bhagavatam in this beautiful ghat on the bank of Ganga Ji in Haridwar, they first wanted everybody to understand the greatness of the Bhagavatam. So they told about one other public recitation which happened just before their telling. And in this, it also highlights the necessity of how you're supposed to listen to the Bhagavatam. There was a husband and wife. The husband was named Atmadev, and the wife was named Dhundhuli. Atmadev was a very pious person, very learned in the Vedas and other scriptures. Dhundhuli was more quarrelsome, lazy, gossiping, this kind of character. They had no children. They had tried for many, many years to have a child, and they had failed. So it made them sad. Although they had a good life, they were very sad that they had no child. So one day, Atmadev was sitting at the edge of a pond, and a saint came by, and he saw that his face was looking very troubled. So he asked him, "What's wrong?" Atmadev told him about he and his wife being childless. So that saint advised him. He said, looking into your past actions and thus knowing what destiny is ahead of you, I can see that you are destined to be childless for your next 7 births. So it's best if you just live with it. Live your life. Don't desire for things that you don't have. Be content. Just live a good life. Atmadev said, please do something. You have to help me. Use your divine power to help me find a child, or I may die of sadness right here in front of you right now. So the saint said, you have to be careful what you ask for. He told him, he reminded him of the example of Chitraketu. Chitraketu is also, his story is told in the Bhagavatam. He was a king who had 10 million queens. 10 million queens and not a single child. So he was miserable. Naradji and some other rishis came to him and he begged them, the same way Atmadev is begging, please, please, you have to do something to give me a child. And they said, no, 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 you can't mess with destiny. You're not destined to have it. Even if we have the power to give you that, it may make your situation even worse. It's better that you're content with what you have. But he insisted. So they gave him, using their power, they had him, his eldest queen had a son born to her. But not long after that son was born, all of the other queens became so jealous because now that queen was getting all the attention. She was the one who had a son born to her. All of the other queens became so jealous, they conspired together and they poisoned the king's son, and he died. Now the king was far more miserable than he was before he had had the son born to him. Naradji came back and he said, I told you, sometimes you don't like your situation, but it's better off than what you have now, isn't it? So he tried to advise Atmadev that you should just be content with what you have. But Atmadev insisted. So the saint gave him an apple. He said, you feed this apple to your wife, Dhundhuli, and she'll have a son born to her. However, if you want this son to be good-natured, then she has to follow some rules during her pregnancy. She has to follow Satya, Daya, Tap, Dan. In other words, she has to be generous, she has to be truthful, she has to be restrained in her behavior, and she should only eat once a day during the entire pregnancy. If she follows this, your son will be very good-natured. So he went back, he told his wife what that saint had said, and he gave her the apple. But she didn't want to have to deal with the trouble of being pregnant, giving birth, raising a child. Her sister was pregnant. So her sister, who was also very crafty, she said, no, 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 just feed that apple to your cow and you can have my baby. I'll just, you can pretend that you're pregnant, put something in your belly, don't tell your husband. And when my child is born, I'll just give him to you and then I'll come secretly every day and nurse him, and that way you'll have a child and you won't have to be pregnant. But you have to pay my husband some money. So okay, she agreed. She paid them and she got their child. And she fed the apple to their cow. So her son, meaning her sister's son, was born and given to her, and he was named Dhundhukari. 3 months after his birth, that cow gave birth to a human boy who was beautiful and glowing and looked very divine. And there was, other than his beauty and the glowing complexion, there was one other thing very particular about him, which is that he had cow ears. So he was named Go-Karn. Karn means ear and Go means cow. So Go-Karn was the younger brother by 3 months of Dhundhukari. Go-Karn grew up to be a very pious and learned Pandit. And Dhundhukari was the opposite. He only cared about himself. But he wasn't just selfish. Being selfish is one thing. He actually found joy in causing suffering to others. He would even trouble blind people that he saw walking by. He would steal from people. He even lit people's houses on fire. So he was a general menace to society, you can say. His character was very bad and Go-Karn's character was very good. When he grew up and he became a man, at one point he went to his parents' house. He beat them, stole everything they had, took all of their wealth, and left them. And he went and spent all of that, wasted it. So at that point, Atmadev became so distraught, thinking to himself that it would have been better not to have any son at all than to have a son like him. Just then Go-Karn came, his younger son, and he advised his father. His father asked him, what do I do now? now that he's tormented us in this way? So Gokarn said, Father, he gave him very sound and very deep advice. He said, Father, you shouldn't think that anyone in this world is yours. Why not? Because every worldly relationship is based on the physical. Your son is born to you. So that doesn't mean that your son's soul has a relationship with your soul. It means that it's a physical relationship based on that circumstance, that this baby was born in this family. It's not a permanent relationship. It's temporary. So how can you consider anyone to be yours? Only Krishna is yours forever. And on top of that, even those who are physically related to you, they're not always going to be favorable towards you. They won't always support you and love you or behave the way you want. So it means, Father, you shouldn't think of anyone in this world as yours. Krishna is yours. So what do I do? He said, Father, true happiness is in Krishna, not in this world. This world only gives you sensual excitement. It doesn't give you happiness. So Father, go to the jungle and just keep reading the Leelas of the 10th canto of the Bhagwatam that tell the whole of Krishna's life. So although he was 60 years old, he was getting elderly, but he agreed. His son also told him that when you're there in the jungle, you keep reading and thinking about Krishna's Leelas of the Bhagwatam. Serve saints, because by serving a saint, you increase your devotion to Krishna even more. And don't find fault in others. He also gave him that advice. You're trying to put your mind in God, so then don't do the opposite. Many of us do devotion, and for some time every day we do devotion, which purifies our heart. We're bringing good things into our heart, and then part of the day we find fault and we criticize others. So even if those people do have that fault, what are we doing? We're bringing that into our mind. In other words, we did some devotion that purified our mind, and then we brought that dirty material thing into our mind, and that made it more impure. Even if we dislike that thing we're thinking about someone's bad qualities, and I dislike that quality in that person. What are you doing? You're bringing that quality into your mind by meditating upon it, by doing chintan of it. So he said, Father, don't find fault. Just go and keep your mind in God, serve saints, think of Krishna's Leelas. And his father did just that, and he attained Krishna before his death. He realized Krishna. Now, Dhundukari got into even more trouble. He started living with 5 ladies. They were public entertainers. And they put great demands on him. They wanted more and more wealth, more and more jewelry, and the only way he had to provide for them was to steal. Now, one day they gave him a big long list. These are all the things we want. This jewelry, this gold, these diamonds. So he went out and he just stole all of it and brought it back and gave it to them. A huge hoard of loot. So that night, those women were talking together and they said, you know, one day he's going to get caught doing this. The king is going to catch him and he's going to hang him and take all of this wealth. So and before that happens, why don't we kill him and take off with all of the wealth? So they plotted, and that very night they killed him and left with all the wealth. And that was the end of Dhundukari. Except he didn't go on and get another birth right away. Some people think once you get a human birth, that you'll always get a human birth. No. Depends on the karma. If we're bad, we don't get another human birth right away. We get lower birth in the lower species. Or in Dhundukari's case, he didn't even go on and get a birth in any species. He was caught in Pretlok. Pretlok, the spirit world, is here on this earth planet, and some souls, because of their extreme attachments and bad actions or selfish actions, when they leave their physical body, when their body dies, although you're supposed to go on according to your karma and get another birth, sounds like we have a vrik who's arrived. Although you're supposed to go on and get another birth, yet there could be some delay in the process. So you could say stuck for a while in the spirit world, pretlok. So there are always spirits, there are always souls who have to spend some time in the spirit world. We can't see them normally, but they do exist. They can't physically be involved with anything here on earth, but they can see what's happening. So Dhundukari became a Bhayankar Pret. He had no form, he just existed as a whirlwind. One night, after doing his brother's Shraddh, because Gokarn was a very pious-hearted individual, he knew that no one is going to help my brother if I don't. So he had actually gone to Gaya. Gaya is supposed to be the most pious place to do Shraddh, when someone has passed on, to try to help them, to give them some more punya, to help them move on to their next birth. You can do this Vedic ceremony called Shraddh. So he did Shraddh in Gaya, and then after that, wherever he went, he did his brother's Shraddh when the time came, when the right time came. After some time, he had returned to his home. Gokar returned to his home. It was night, and he decided to sleep in his angan, in the courtyard, the open courtyard. So he came to his home, lay down in the courtyard, started to go to sleep, and then he heard this big sound, like a very scary sound, because Dhundukari, he was always suffering actually, suffering from hot and cold and hunger and thirst, but he had no way. When you're a pret, you can't eat anything, you can't drink anything, you can't get warm, you can't protect yourself from the heat. So he was always suffering, and he was always, you could say, wailing in pain. So Gokarn heard this sound, and then his brother Dhundukari showed himself. He showed himself as a buffalo, then he showed himself as Indra, he showed himself as Agni. So Gokarn is thinking that this must be some poor soul who's caught in the spirit world. He asked, "Who are you? Are you a pret? Are you a rakshas? Who are you?" Dhundukari was suffering so much he couldn't say anything. He couldn't even speak properly. He was just crying and crying and crying. So Gokarn took some Ganga Jal and sprinkled it on him. So that gave him a little bit of relief, so that he could at least talk. And he said, "Oh brother, it's me, it's Dhundukari. I'm suffering so much. All I can do is breathe the air, but I'm suffering from hunger and thirst, hot and cold. Can you please do something to help me?" So Gokarn was very surprised. He said, "I already did your Shraddh in Gaya. If that didn't help, what else could help? I don't know." Dhundukari said, "Brother, you have no idea. I did so many terrible, wrong actions. Even if you did hundreds of Shraddh for me in Gaya, it's not going to release me from this Pret Yoni. So please, try to find something." Gokarn said, "Yes, I'll find something, don't worry." So Dhundukari went away, and the next morning, because Gokarn was very, very known and respected in that locality, he was a respected Pandit. So the next morning, once everybody knew that he had returned home, everybody came to pay their respects and visit Gokarn. And he told them his problem, and he asked for their help. There were many learned Pandits among them, and they started poring through the scriptures and trying to find some solution to this problem. They couldn't find any solution. What are they supposed to do? So Gokarn decided, let's ask Surya, the sun god. So using his power, he stopped the forward progress of Surya Dev. So Surya asked, what do you want? He told him the problem. Surya said, oh, it's very simple. You have to do Bhagwat Saptah. Recite the Bhagavatam in 7 days. That will release him from this Preta Yoni. So it was decided. They organized a big Bhagwat Saptah. And many, many people came to hear. There was a big excitement when they heard that the Bhagavatam was going to be recited. Now, since Dhundukari didn't have an actual physical form in which he could sit and listen to this recitation of the Bhagavatam, there was a bamboo staff that had 7 joints in it, 7 knots. So that was very near the front of where everybody was sitting. He came and he entered that, and he stayed in that to listen to the first day of the recitation of the Bhagavatam. So Gokarn, according to the allotted time, he finished that day's recitation of that part, the first part of the Bhagavatam. So when he finished, there was a big cracking sound, and that first knot of that bamboo staff split apart. So everybody was amazed. But then it was the time to rest, so people rested, they came back the next day, and then he continued with the Bhagavatam. At the end of the second day, again, the second knot cracked and burst. And this went on happening, so that at the end of the 7th day, the 7th knot burst, and Dhundukari appeared before them. But he didn't have, he was released from his Preta Yoni, and he was actually in a divine body standing in front of him. And he bowed to his brother Gokarn and thanked him. Not only had he been released from his Preta Yoni, but in fact, he attained Shri Krishna by listening to the Bhagavatam. So there was an aerial car that came from Vaikuntha abode with one of the servants of Mahavishnu, who came and took Dhundukari and was taking him up to the divine abode. But there were so many other thousands of people who listened. So Gokarn asked, oh, before you go, can I ask one question? Why is Dhundukari getting to go? All of these people also heard the very same recitation. So he explained that resident of Vaikuntha abode, he explained that Dhundukari listened, took it in his heart, and purified his heart by listening to the Bhagavatam, and his mind became one with Krishna. That's why he's going to the divine abode. So he instructed Gokarn, recite the Bhagavatam again. Do the whole thing again, but this time everybody else, you listen the way Dhundukari listened. So they all did, and he told the Bhagavatam again, and at that time many, many aerial cars came from Vaikuntha abode and took all of the listeners to the divine abode, and Gokarn himself went to Golok abode of Shri Krishna. So in this way, I've explained to you the importance of the Bhagavatam, the greatness of the Bhagavatam, how you're supposed to listen to the Bhagavatam, some of the essential things that the Bhagavatam teaches, like that the actual goal of human life is not just liberation, but in fact to attain the divine love of Shri Krishna, who is the personal form of God in his absolute full-bloom form. And that in order to do devotion, we have to do it from our mind. We have to surrender our mind to Krishna by lovingly remembering him, remembering his leelas, establishing a relationship with him in our heart, and thinking of him like ours. And that the 3 main forms of bhakti, which are recommended in the Bhagavatam, are this smaran, which I just explained to you, thinking of Krishna lovingly in that way, Kirtan, while doing smaran, chanting Krishna's name, virtues, leelas, and Shravan, listening to his leelas and listening to the philosophy. These are the 3 main ways that the Bhagavatam recommends practicing bhakti in order to attain Shri Krishna in this life. So in this way, this week, I explain the Bhagwat Mahapuran to you, and the next time I come, we'll get into the actual leelas of Shri Krishna. Now that you understand some of the importance and how to listen to them, so I'll come again and we'll start covering the leelas in chronological order when Krishna came on this earth planet. Boli Vrindavan Bihari Lal Ki.